U.S. midterms don't typically get a lot of attention, but this year is different.
You've already seen campaign ads, bumper stickers, and yard signs of your local congressmen and congresswomen. Yup, the midterm election season is upon us once again. If you didn't know, they're kind of a big deal.
It is almost the end of Tuesday. As I say these words, it will turn into Wednesday. Here we are at the 538 headquarters.
Tomorrow will be a new day in America.
2018 congressional election has solidified its status as a coast-to-coast battle for the House, with both President Trump and former President Barack Obama hitting the campaign trail to back candidates. The elections are slated to not only determine the balance of power in Congress, but they also have the potential to shape the strategies and identities of the two parties heading into the 2020 presidential race.
435 seats in the House of Representatives, 35 of the 100 seats in the Senate, 36 of 50 governorships, not to mention numerous statewide races and ballot measures up for vote. Unless you're a political junkie, it's quite difficult to keep track.
Right now, Republicans have the majority in both the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Election is such a big deal because it represents enormous stakes for both parties. If the Republicans keep the House, they will see it as a reinforcement of Trump's mandate. And for the Democrats, it's an opportunity to put a check on President Trump and try to use congressional power to get at some of the scandals that have already been plaguing his presidency.
Civics 101. Midterm elections are generally viewed as a gauge of the sitting president's performance. The House of Representatives and 1/3 of the Senate is elected every 2 years. All senators serve 6-year terms. Midterm elections can shift the power of the presidency.
Let's look back at some of the races that we were covering this evening.
We already have some results. We already have a flip. It is in the House. It's from the state of Virginia. Jennifer Wexton.
Tell me why we're actually sitting here and talking about Virginia, because our model said that the Democrat had an 89% chance of winning there.
This is a seat that Democrats basically had to win in order to take control of the House. Barbara Comstock, as you mentioned, was one of the most vulnerable Republicans. It also bodes well for Democrats' path forward in wealthier suburban districts. It's notable that Barbara Comstock not only lost the seat, but she is really getting crushed right now by an almost 20-point margin. So if voters in these types of districts aren't distinguishing between a generic Republican and kind of their kind of Republican, that could be bad news for some of these name brand Republicans.
Today is more than about Democrats and Republicans. It's about restoring the Constitution's checks and balances to the Trump administration.
House members serve a 2-year term, so every seat is up for grabs. Right now, Republicans have 236 out of 435 seats. Democrats have 193 and 6 are vacant. And there are a record number of House members not seeking re-election in 2018, with more than 40 Republicans not running again, including House Speaker Paul Ryan.
Former state rep Mike Braun, you see him right there. Mike Braun, Republican, will win the Senate seat in the state of Indiana, a pickup for the Republicans.
What does this mean for Democrats' path to try and take back the Senate?
They had to have a near perfect night, I think, to have a shot at winning the Senate. And now one of their incumbents has fallen, and it was one who might not have even been the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, he was vulnerable, there's no question, but I think there are some, like Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, or maybe Claire McCaskill in Missouri, that, push comes to shove. I think people might have thought Donnelly had a better shot than either of them, and yet here he is going down.
The year was 1994. It was the first midterm election of Bill Clinton's presidency. Dubbed the Republican Revolution, the GOP captured the U.S. House, Senate, and a majority of the country's governor's mansions. In fact, it was the first time Republicans controlled both chambers of Congress since 1952. This sweep led to major policy changes, including welfare reform. Jump to the thumping of 2006, President George W. Bush's second midterm.
If you look at race by race, it was close. The cumulative effect, however, was not too close. It was a thumping.
Democrats won back both chambers handily from the GOP. Then, President Barack Obama was elected 2 years later, and Democrats reformed the healthcare system.
There are still lots of individual results to watch as the night goes on, but we kind of have our two big storylines, and it's sort of what we expected all along.
Yeah, it was kind of a wild ride getting there, but ABC News has now projected, and our forecast is showing Democrats winning the House, Republicans winning the Senate. It looks like Republicans will pick up maybe 2 or 3 seats in the Senate, and that Democrats will win a lot of seats in the House. So it's really, again, it's the story, it's been all election cycle, tale of 2 chambers. The results certainly reflect a divide that we saw in 2016, that we saw kind of grow and heighten during the Obama years, and this is a continuation of that story.